This is what happens when you expect the government to do your job for you. You see, instead of looking after your own kids and ensuring that they're not going on websites they shouldn't be and that they know about internet safety, you're relying on the government to do it. At least you are if you're in the UK and various other places throughout the world. Because now the UK government has essentially banned freedom in their country. Because you allowed them to. You gave them an excuse. You see, they don't actually care about doing your job for you. They don't actually care about protecting your children. But they'll sure as hell use an excuse to implement wide-ranging restrictions on the sort of content you're accessing, or at the very least ensure that they can tie back any content you're accessing to you. That's what people in the UK have allowed their government to do to them, and frankly they deserve it because they voted for it. They decided not to do their job and say, hey, you know what, that sounds like harmless fun, let's let the government restrict social media sites to certain age groups. Let's ensure that all websites and social media are required to follow all of these laid out rules by the government because we can't do it for them. You see, they'll talk about it like, oh, this is necessary. You know, the internet has only been around for the last 20 years and we've been slow to regulate and all these sorts of things. The problem is how we're now regulating, because this isn't just a UK issue, this is going to become increasingly a New Zealand issue. How we are regulating is in a way which gives governments far too much power. That restricts your ability to express your own opinion. Your ability to go about your day using the internet for whatever purpose you need it for, without being monitored, without having that data sold off somewhere. As far as I'm concerned, the most mundane of tasks on the internet is none of the government's business. So under no circumstances should the government be passing laws where the most mundane of tasks is potentially led back to you, unless you want it to be. For the most part, people's online footprints are massive because they have no idea. But that being said, the government should not be taking away your ability to protect your own privacy. Now, this is why VPNs are a bit of a topic around this issue as well, because whilst the UK has gone out of their way to force social media sites and websites and all that sort of stuff to do age verification when their site may contain certain content, this has meant that VPN usage has skyrocketed, and this obviously undermines the entire point of this policy, which is to monitor what you're doing and to prevent you from accessing certain material and opinions online that the government of the day doesn't deem acceptable. So what's next? Of course, they want to ban VPNs, or at least they're hinting that it's under consideration. You know, the banning of VPNs is catastrophic for your privacy. I mean, obviously there's always workarounds. It's not a flawless system, but it's certainly better than not utilizing a VPN. You know, I've had a monthly subscription to a VPN for about a year now, and it's one of the best investments you'll make. It's as simple as turning it on, and I'm there. I am utilizing the internet the same way I always would, but I've just got that extra element or extra layer of security and privacy. You know, I don't need these websites taking all of my data and all of this stuff to force me nonsense ads that I don't care about. And that's, by the way, that's why I always say no to cookies as well. Say no to cookies, folks. It'll make you fat. The point being, VPNs have a range of uses, and ultimately you're better off with one than without one. Now, I've seen journalists complain that VPNs could be banned because this is, of course, a safety feature for them. If they're investigating someone who doesn't want to be investigated and they have the means of trying to track you down or prevent you from investigating them, the lack of a VPN makes that significantly easier. But back to the primary issue at hand, and that is the Online Safety Act in the UK, which is going to be rolled out in several places across the Western world if we do not stop it in its tracks. The Online Safety Act, according to the BBC, is the central aim to make the internet safer for the people in the UK, especially children. Is that right? It's going to make you all safer if you allow the government to force the internet, essentially, to follow set rules that the government has determined acceptable. It is a set of laws and duties that online platforms must follow, being implemented and enforced by a media regulator. Under its children's codes, platforms must prevent young people from encountering harmful content relating to suicide, self-harm, eating disorders, and adult content from the 25th of July. So that's already passed. The problem with that is all of those things that I've just listed there is what the parents should be doing. Parents should be encouraging, preventing, taking measures, utilizing available features with, internet service providers to prevent their children accessing that so easily in the first place. There's already a means of doing so. You don't need to rely on their government to do that for you. This will see some services, notably adult sites, start checking the age of UK users, and X.com, and a range of other sites which you wouldn't typically associate with adult material, suddenly needing to do age verification. The rules are also designed to protect children from misogynistic, violent, hateful, or abusive material, online bullying, and dangerous challenges. Now, the online bullying thing, that's already a crime, so you don't need to cover that. But this is what I want to focus on. Misogynistic, violent, and hateful content. Now, the violent stuff I can understand a bit, but ultimately, it's going to be on the internet in some capacity. I know every now and then there is clips on X, but as far as I'm concerned, the absence of those violent clips on X would mean that people remain uninformed on what's going on. But also, what would violence include in this instance? Protest action. As seen just last week or earlier in the week, when X.com, we had screenshots of people in the UK, they couldn't see anything from a protest happening at all. It was all, sorry, we have to at least get an age verification before you can see this stuff, forcing people to share their identity with X.com before they can access this stuff. You're not allowed to know what's going on unless the government knows who you are. What X's privacy policy is with respect to this and sharing that with governments, I don't know. But I shouldn't have to know, because I shouldn't have to worry about the government knowing that I'm looking at a protest that might be slightly violent on X.com. I shouldn't have to, because that's none of the government's bloody business. But then, to touch back on it, misogynistic and hateful conduct. So misogynistic in this case would be the belief that it is completely okay for a woman to lead a traditional life, family life, right? That's completely normal. Misogynistic, the belief that women are not stronger than men, generally. That would be misogynistic. You're not allowed to say that in the UK anymore. That's illegal. Hateful, the claim that trans men are women and that trans women are men. That only a man can be a man and only a woman can be a woman. These would be called hateful statements, according to the UK. Because as we know, especially when it's leftists putting in policy like this, they view the slightest indiscretion against a minority group as hateful. They view the slightest criticism of a marginalized population as hateful. You're not allowed to share opinions that the left disagrees with, because that's hateful. The UK has banned free speech, and you just have to suck it up. The EU is going to follow suit and ban free speech. Now, this is as literal a ban of free speech as I've ever seen. Social media, sites and websites and the like, must prevent you from sharing a particular opinion, because if it could in any way be deemed misogynistic or hateful, or if a particular video is considered violent because it just so happens that there are a bunch of very, very angry Britons screaming at Keir Starmer for being a fascist, then you're not allowed to do that. Social media or the websites need to do something about it. They need to take it down, or at the very least need to restrict the content to anyone who hasn't told the government who they are. This is the most fascist the UK has been since Oswald Mosley, and Mosley was in opposition. Because we can't pretend that there aren't political prisoners in the UK right now. We can't pretend there aren't people being prosecuted, arrested because they're sharing the wrong opinions. You see, this sort of stuff was already happening to various degrees, but now it's just going to go way further. Now, not only are you going to have the internet police just reporting you to the coppers, or the coppers monitoring your stuff best they can and arresting you, now the social media sites and all of the other websites that are wanting or ensuring that they do the bare minimum to abide by these laws so that they can continue operating in the UK, they are going to help censor you. They're going to help hold you accountable. So imagine if the next step is to ban VPNs, and then what? You're screwed. You're not going to be able to share an opinion online anymore unless it conforms with the prevailing narrative. That's that. So, New Zealanders, Australians, anyone, anywhere, if your government says to you, hey, here's a good idea, it's harmless and will do a lot of good for the children, let's ban adult content for children. Oh, great. That's already technically in place. Let's force social media sites and adult websites and other kinds of online content that may not be appropriate for children. Let's force the people providing that to put in age verification processes. Let's force them to ensure that everyone accessing the content which may be legal but inappropriate is only being provided for adults. Let's do that. Harmless, right? Because that protects the children. No, it doesn't protect the children. It gives the government control over you. It gives the government the excuse to reduce the amount of freedom you have and to monitor what you're doing online more easily. The UK voted for it. Other parts of the world are voting for it. Don't be like them. Because I'll tell you what, we've got enough trouble trying to hold this off here in New Zealand with a national government. Imagine a Labour government coming in next year. This would be a foregone conclusion.